Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the SCC. Again, the qualifiers now. We are looking towards Worlds. 8 teams have entered. Actually, only 6 teams remain. Normally, I think coming into this week, you would have thought, okay, well, the SCC teams, or the SOC teams, I should say, the open circuit teams, they're going to come in, they're going to put up a good fight. But when we get down to 6, we expect it to be the SCC teams. But it was the Styx Ferryman and Thunderhead that got eliminated yesterday. And so I think we're in for a treat today. It's Gormizer. I got Trelly on the desk with me. And Trelly, again, this is again, we're more matches get more important, right? First day, you lose one, it's not the end of the world. Yesterday, a couple of teams get sent home. Today, a lot more teams get sent home, and we are going down from 6 to, I believe, 4, and then tomorrow from 4 to 2. So a lot of pressure on these teams, and of course, as mentioned, it is on this long road that we're going down. Not a yellow brick one, but just the road to Worlds, as we did last week. You can mark that one off. The Phase 3 playoffs got the top 4 teams that are already in the World's quarterfinals. But now we're trying to find their opponents. This week, of course, we are in Europe. 2 semi-pro teams that are going to move on. We'll figure out who those are. So again, 6, down to 4 today, down to 2 tomorrow. And then next week, we're going to do the same thing. Start with 8, go down to 6, go down to 4, go down to 2. And those 4 teams will then move forward and meet with the SPL teams that did not qualify directly to Worlds in the SWC group stage January 5th through 8th. And the week after, we're going to Arlington, Texas in the Esports Arena. And it's going to be the Smite World Championship January 13th through 15th. You're going to want to make sure you do not miss that one because I have legitimately been looking forward to it since we announced it, and maybe even a little before that, and probably before that, and last year, and the year before that. Like any time that we could ever be in front of a crowd again, it has been at the forefront of my mind. A lot of fun, but just looking at this weekend again, kind of, this broad scope. This is the next month or so, zooming in instead to the 8th through 11th, and what we've seen so far, and of course, Trelly, what we are going to be seeing. A lot of the fun stuff that has surprised me, I think, is yesterday specifically, an SCC team getting eliminated right here. Hex Mambo. It was surprising. The Wargs, I think, kind of catching everybody off guard. The 6th seed with an upset over the Ferryman, and then being able to push Hex Mambo to 3 games. Unfortunately, still falling there, so finding themselves in this next match that we're actually about to watch. Personel. 15-minute, 16-minute surrenders on day number 1 against Hex Mambo. And then had the gall to show up and eliminate the 4th seed from the SCC. A really beautiful set from them yesterday. And of course, Group A had 2 that went 3. Hex Mambo has qualified to the elimination stage and have been favorites for this tournament. We'll see if they can make it into the top 2 as we continue on. Wargs Personel are what we're going to be watching. Group B has been a little more cut and dry. Or I guess cut dry? What's the phrase there? Who cares? It's been 2-0s for a lot of these teams. And outside of specifically the Gladiators and the Scorpions, haven't been too many upsets over here. The Scorpions losing to the Gladiators early on. Gladiators falling yesterday. And they will end up in a rematch here as Thunderhead was eliminated from contention. And so there's a lot of pressure. Ravens going to be, much like Hex Mambo, waiting a little bit to see who is going to join them up there in the advancement. That's going to be the winner of Match 10. I believe the second set of the day will be Gladiators and Scorpions. First one, though, Wargs behind me, Personel behind you, the nice, the Cthulhu, as you had described, and you were talking about getting hype, and I think there's a good reason for it. Both of these teams, despite either a loss yesterday for the Wargs, a couple days ago, a pretty heavy loss for Personel. I think they both looked really good. The Wargs played against Hex Mambo yesterday. Game 1, very standard Hex Mambo. That was me and you casting that one. Game 3, a little closer to competitive, but still kind of standard Hex Mambo. Game 2, blew them out of the water. I mean, the Wargs just showed up and played out of their minds, and you have to look at Hawkk because he had a phenomenal game on the Soul and did still translate that into game number 3.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the mid lane play out of Hawkk. I think that, coming into this event, very low seeded in the EU SCC, did not expect them to be able to take a game off of Hex Mambo. That is not an easy task to do in any stretch of the word, but also they got to make sure they're playing up to the top of their abilities, and I think Hawkk has been a shining right here. for the Niflheim Wargs. Very consistent. I think a lot of these teams have been prioritizing the pick like Merlin, which is a surprise because I didn't think Merlin would be... Merlin's always decent, but I didn't think he would be that highly contested. But Hawkk on this pick can be extremely deadly, and you highlighted the Soul gameplay. I tend to agree. The Supernovas were absolutely popping off, so Hawkk definitely a player to watch out for here on the Niflheim Wargs roster. If you can play through mid lane, if the Wargs are trying to use any bit of pressure that Sarpeii can get to go towards mid and help out Hawkk, I think it's going to help out their squad immensely.
Yeah, I think this has been, again, fun to watch. You know, Hawkk kind of returning to this team from I believe the Ferryman is where he was prior. So, you know, being able to jump in on a new squad and have them look good, right? The Wargs 6th seed in the SCC, not a lot of success that they were able to find. I think actually 0-5, if I remember correctly, in the regular season. Maybe they got a win in there. Not the best phase 3 for them, though, right, is really the point. And so being able to come in, take a game off of the number 1 team, which I would be willing to say is the most that they've taken off of Hexmambo maybe all year, as well as being able to show up some of these other squads, cause a little bit of upset in their side of the group. It's been fun to watch. But if you want upsets, Wargs have done a little bit of it. Let's talk about a massive one. Personel, the team from the SOC yesterday, I have to say, winning me over with their drafts. I think they all looked beautiful. But then their play as well in games 2 and 3 versus Ferryman were just phenomenal. And if they can bring that style, I think the Wargs are going to have a little bit of a struggle ahead of them.
Yeah, we just highlighted the Merlin play of Hawkk, and you can't talk about Personel without highlighting the Merlin play of RAIIDUN. I mean, he was absolutely popping off. 6-0, 5-0, unkillable on a character that, you know, shouldn't be able to play that safe. Was able to solo out Zeros as well on the Yu Huang. I mean, a lot of highlight plays here from this mid laner. So in the battle of mid lane, I'm looking to see probably more towards picks and bans if the Wargs and or Personel could get their mids on something they feel confident on. But like I said, the way that RAIIDUN was playing this pick, it just seemed like he was always in the right position, and that's something that is very crucial for a mid laner because you're so squishy. Usually you're building full damage. If you're caught out of position even a little bit, you're double relicking or you're dying. I think RAIIDUN has been able to stay constantly in good position, and also that's credit to the tanks on his team. Personalised and Olllly have been able to be such a solid front line to make sure that he's always in the right spot and never in harm's way.
It was ridiculous. I mean, how many times we were watching a fight, especially, I think it was in game number 2 specifically, and we're like, didn't use beads there.
Yep.
Never needed to, right? If you're walking out, not only not dying, but not using relics, I think you're playing incredibly well. I also just have to shout out the entire team. Whoever's running the draft for Personel won me over throughout that entire set yesterday, even a little bit we saw a few days ago on Thursday, because they had really good drafts. It was just, can you execute them? Hexmambo made that very difficult. Unfortunately for the Ferryman, Personel were able to turn things around. We'll see if they can bring that same power up against the Niflheim Wargs here in picks and bans for game number 1. The Wargs are first pick. And Trelly, there's been a lot. I mean, you know, when I've been thinking first pick, at least in SPL, you can usually take a little bit of a guess, although it's still, I mean, even up there at this point, kind of a smattering of gods that have really taken the precedent to be up towards the top. Ishtar comes to my mind maybe as maybe the most, but we've also seen the Cupid and the Cernunnos and the Hades and probably like Yamoja, at least 4 gods that I'm forgetting off the top of my mind. Daji, since she got banned out, always worth a mention. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly the Wargs go with here. They do ban out, though, the Daji, as just mentioned, the Fafnir as well, answered back by the Yamoja, and the Soul on the other side. So Soul, I mean, we were talking about Hawkk's Soul performance yesterday, seems to have earned a little bit of respect here, and Personel don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, certainly has. I've seen the Cthulhu been banned away from Personel as well a couple times, and that is not going to be the case this time around. So is that something Personel really wants to put priority towards? That Merlin is also something that I've been expecting to have some priority towards, but more specifically, I see what you're looking at. Is that 8 games played, 88% win rate for Thor? Yeah.
What?
He's been looking.
That's too much.
He's been looking pretty good.
Who lost on him? Who ruined it?
It wasn't adapting. I think Sarpeii might have lost 1 game but won another, so that might have been the one. I'm pretty sure that was it. I could be wrong though. Sarpeii, I'm sorry if I'm telling your name. That's just what I remember in my head.
Sorry if I'm dragging you through the mud. Well, hey, Thor, he's been winning a lot of games. Immediately makes the Wargs feel like they have a little bit of a precedent to it. We were talking a lot about the Thor yesterday, and a lot of what he can provide. Ults, walls, hammers, all of it feels real great. Cernunnos, Hades, but as you pointed out, it is the Merlin stripped away from Personel. RAIIDUN's not going to be able to play this one. Instead, on the other side, Hawkk. Going from the soul to this, if you go back to watch the highlights, those are the picks that we were talking about the most, and I expect to have a high amount of control. And you want to talk about control, match that with an Atlas? It's a lot of good damage and overlapping circles.
Yep, and it looks like Personel going for this style of composition that we've seen so many times with a lot of CC and lockdown from the Athena and the Hades, of course, and then Cernunnos is going to be that first hunter. There's certainly option to have a second ADC in there as well, because Hades and Athena are going to take care of that magical damage, but going into that second wave of bans, the Heimdall and the Ratatoskr are going to be taken away, so focused a little bit on ADCs for Personel, and the Wargs trying to take away those junglers, those high-pressure junglers more specifically, as well as the Pele. So two characters that can really get active in the early. Smart call, trying to facilitate the early game when you have double hunter could be the idea, but they said, hey, we're just going to grab Scylla. We don't care about double hunter. We've got plenty of magical and physical damage already.
I, again, really like their draft, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from top to bottom, and some of it's based on play, right? Like, I think Olllly on this Athena has looked really good, and the setup that's going to bring for a Cernunnos and a Scylla feels like it should be fantastic. Other side, can't really scoff at it either, right? You know, we talked about the Merlin, we talked about the Thor, but now you got a Chernobog, so some global presence, and Achilles in there, Chelly. Yesterday, we saw an Achilles literally control the entire game to the point where it warranted a ban in game number 3. So I think the Wargs have set themselves up for success.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wargs draft. It's looking pretty nasty here. I was curious what Personel would try and pair with this team, and I like the Lancelot a lot as well. So there's a decent bit of setup here for Scylla, and that's always the question when you see a Scylla is, are you hitting free I'm a monsters, or are they being set up for you? And it looks like Personel has a fair bit of setup for that Scylla, as well as the Lancelot is going to bring that early pressure, try and get this team to late game. But I got to echo what you were talking about with the Wargs as well. They've got the global presence with the Chernobog and the semi-global presence with that Thor. Seems like the team fights could get real hectic real fast.
Yeah, Athena can follow them around at least a little bit, but everybody else is going to be running free for the Wargs. We'll see what they can do here in game number 1 as we jump down to J-Mac and Niflheim for the Wargs taking on Personel.
It's day number 3 of the EU SCC Championships, and one of these teams is going to be going home. One of them is going to be moving on to face the Highland Ravens later on. What a prize for either of these two teams to go through. Niflheim Wargs, the number 6 seed SCC Mifflin. Personel, the number 2 seed SOC team that has still made it this far into the tournament. And it should be a fun matchup here. Hawkk going on to the Merlin, which has been a power pick in the EU SCC in general, or I should say in the EU amateur scene. Kind of making that as like a double ban almost there by picking up for Hawkk and taking away from RAIIDUN, who performed so well on it yesterday.
Yeah, and this is a matchup that I've become oddly accustomed to seeing, especially in the EU SCC. Scylla versus Merlin. We've had a couple of opportunities already. Seems to be a bit slower throughout the early. Neither one of these two picks very, very good at pushing these waves, which means junglers will likely be able to soak up a bit more farm if they so choose. And between these two junglers, I'd expect Sarpeii to be really trying to make his stamp known in mid, whereas reeok, for the most part, going to be reliant on that ultimate if he wants to shut down Hawkk. That cripple field, the Grand Joust, so good at controlling entire lanes worth of mobility. Otherwise, I expect a bit of a slower pace here. Looking at the composition for Personel, that is a very late game slanted draft. It's got clear synergies. Olllly and RAIIDUN going to match up together. Make it very difficult for anyone on the Wargs to want to walk into any of these engagements. And the Wargs for themselves, they've got some direct counter matchups. Itori's been going towards his Achilles pretty consistently. Generally against Cthulhu, but in execution, pretty similar up against the Hades. Wait for that Pillars of Agony, have your team drop them into your threshold, and you can remove them from the map.
I think a lot of my eye is going to be on these two junglers, Sarpeii and reeok. Sarpeii had a phenomenal game on the Thor earlier in the week, so much that it warranted a ban for the remainder of that set. reeok on this Lancelot was able to have a pretty exceptional game. I think that was during his game 2 or his game 3 in a set just prior. And so I'll be curious to see how he can perform on this one, because it feels like when reeok is able to have a game where, not necessarily that he can free cast, but that he can play a little bit more freely, his team really does seem to be able to step up there. He's able to kind of get those waves going for his squad. Sarpeii obviously on Thor, a playmaking style of God. And with that semi-global pressure and the global on there, feels like the Niflheim Wargs can turn any 1v1 into almost an immediate 3v1.
Yeah, and I think you're right to bring up Sarpeii in particular because he is the pace setter for the Niflheim Wargs. Even when Sarpeii is getting incredibly active early, let's talk about his first performance on Thor we've seen this week. I believe ends that game 11-1, and 8 of those 11 kills in the first 15 minutes. Pretty impressive stuff, but when you look at the rest of the squad, he's only acting as a bridge into that mid, into that late game. Sarpeii is going to be solo agent aggressive on map. Seems to be the style that Niflheim Wargs have really leaned into. Whereas reeok, you bring up requiring a bit of freedom. I think a free spirit's a pretty great way to describe reeok. He's either having a standard performance game where he's able to get his stuff done early, or we see maybe a bit more of the goofiness that we had seen during the Mambo set where he's getting a bit wild on map.
Yeah, unfortunately for him doing the Mambo set, he got a first blood, you know, in like the first 30 seconds of the game. That was really good. -30. That was really good, but then he kind of just got ran over the remainder of that set. Maybe for the sake of Personel and for reeok himself, hoping that something similar doesn't happen this game on the Lancelot. But we always talk about how Lancelot does end up being a pretty powerful god in the early mid game, could be at least a decent bridge for the rest of his team, especially when you got a late game hyper carry mage like Scylla for RAIIDUN. Could be a good opportunity for reeok to try and play through his mid a little bit.
It could be. I imagine we see reeok just play counter to Sarpeii. It's not the standard setup that we're used to seeing, right, for an I'm a Monster. Sure, you can root, but not exactly ideal. Sarpeii up to the air, has eyes for reeok at his own speed buff. That was a wild call-out play. He's standing on tier 1 tower line, staring down RAIIDUN, and says, I'm going up anyway. There's nothing you can do about it. reeok a bit behind on the farm. Did not have the tools to take that engagement up against Sarpeii. Loses out, and loses on his back camps as well, sitting pretty low, I believe halfway through level 4, whereas Sarpeii, he'll be taking a 6 pretty soon.
Going for a gank on a Personalised, but ult is down for Itori. Used it to get out of the Pillar of Agony. Maybe counter rotation by reeok, but reeok's still not level 5 just yet. Maybe a couple of minions will help him get there. It will, but a little too late to go for the chase down towards Itori with no ultimates available to either solo laner. Not much kill there. Maybe some kill pressure here, or at least enough to be able to scare them away from the blue buff that should go to Personel.
Yeah, a bit over-aggressive from Sarpeii, aiming for that gank on a Personalised. Maybe if he connects the wall, double-tap combo, Personalised gets even lower. I don't imagine there's a world where Thor is actually killing the Hades in that situation. Only value you find is stripping the beads, but in trading so much of your life for those beads, you lose your blue buff as well. Sarpeii, Itori both too low to stop that contention from reeok, who rotates over very well. So he may have lost his backs, but he steals blue, confirms his own, and makes sure that this Hades has a decent transition to the mid game.
Sarpeii will take over towards level 6. With that rotation by reeok, should put him pretty close to being able to pip over towards that as well. Golden Blade again for Itori, and this is something that we've been seeing a lot out of Itori on this Achilles. We were also seeing it from Lestemics on the Hercules, this Golden Blade start. Didn't entirely make sense to me, and then we kind of talked it out a little bit. You know, okay, you're going to be autoing the wave a little bit extra. Early game helps you, especially when you're going against clears like Hades and Amaterasu. I guess helps you in that regard, but we'll see how the rest of the build goes through with that. We'll see how this goes through, because, well, unfortunately for Sarpeii, doesn't find that dunk on a Personalised. That's going to be an hold-on cooldown for a little while.
I mean, that was a really quick reaction time from Personalised. That was just, I suppose, telegraphed. Itori's walking up a bit aggressive, so Personalised realized there's probably something headed my way, and leaps just in time. Olllly, have you stepped too far forward here? Can't dash out with Cozyx in front of you. Tries to grab the offering. Incapable of doing so. But this Golden Blade item, J-Mac, I was going to try my hardest to ignore it, because the more I think about it, the more I dislike it. I don't love this Golden Blade in first slot. You're not exactly lacking for clear on Achilles. If you're going Glad Shield in first slot, and Doug, can we get a look at the level order here for Itori? Generally, it's combat dodge maxed out first, and it is still. If you auto-attack Personalised to group the wave, or maybe have to retreat here. Nice block from reeok. Secures the kill in first blood. Olllly getting involved as well. doesn't even get the assist for this one. Imagine if you had Glad Shield, man. It would have been a little bit of defense there.
A little more HP.
A little bit more CDR. Maybe your dashes are back up in time, or your stuns get in a good position as well. Golden Blade just doesn't do a whole lot for you, I don't think.
Sarpeii fighting for not only his life, but his speed buff. Dash in by reeok. Olllly does not have the taunt this time around. But now this 2v2 is going to be a potential 4v2 with a dunk in on top of reeok. That is a turnaround kill, a pickup onto Olllly. Not many places for the Athena to go. Triple top of the wall, slows him down, keeps the old dash from going through and into the tower. He will fall. A 2-for-none trade on the speed buff.
That global presence that Des was talking about starting to rear its head. Spudio makes the rotation all the way from the duo lane and is easily able to match up with Sarpeii, who goes up to the air as well. Personel got to play really aware of the fact that Niflheim Wargs are able to rotate in towards these fights at just the barest bit of knowledge. You realize you're on your speed, great rotation. Niflheim Wargs legitimately lose nothing off that as well. Spudio had already cleared the wave, rotates back through, so even with Duduin, I suppose grabbing a bit of that neutral farm, not enough to make up for what Spudio has done for his team.
Duduin does get picked up by Cozyx, but not a whole lot of kill pressure between the two of them on towards the Cernunnos. Level 8, still has his beads and has ultimate available to him in case things got a little bit dicey over there. But Duduin should be fine. Duduin's been one of those players that still continues to impress out the squad. Even when the team isn't going as hot, he still seems to have at least decent performances, especially when you get him on towards some of the picks like Ishtar earlier on into the week, where the rest of his team is kind of falling apart. He's standing there 3-1 going, what's going on, guys? I'm having a field day over here. But got to have at least a little bit of that consistency on a squad like this, especially when you're going up against teams that you're not too familiar with. You don't get to play for the SOC. You don't get to play against these SCC squads too often. So being able to have a 1 to 2 players perform well no matter who you're going against is always a shining light.
I agree. Duduin has been very good in every single one of his matches so far. I think it might be a byproduct of the pace of EU SCC. We don't often see ganks towards the duo lane. A lot more solo-centric. We'll see fights erupt around the Greater Scorpions, but for the most part, long lane is a solo island. Itori wishing he was on an island. Ganked again by reeok with a counter from Sarpeii. No good.
Whiffs everything. reeok goes back in because he's got the backup from Olllly. Push back is good, but now it's turned to a 3v3. Now making 4 with Hawkk on the way. And the support, the entire squad of the Niflheim Wargs have shown up to rally around Itori. And they're able to find 2 because of it.
So generally the answer to this global presence from Spudio is to fight around Spudio. Bring the fight over to the duo lane, all of a sudden Living Nightmare, not a massive thing to deal with. Personnel, take the fight to the solo lane, have Spudio rotate and say, well, nobody's here anymore. Maybe we just grab that Gold Fury. Great pass back and forth of the objective aggro. Make sure that Personnel are able to do that with relative ease. So Gold Fury in trade keeps Personnel in the lead.
Attempted I can't even say attempted. It was a successful
red
red buff invade. They did attempt it.
And it was successful.
And they did do it. I thought maybe RAIIDUN had the clear for that one with the Scylla. You know, the increased damage dealt towards those minions made it, at least in my mind, be something that you should be able to confirm for yourself there, but just a little unfortunate, a little mistimed there for RAIIDUN. Loses out on his red buff that now goes over around Cozyx's waist for a little while longer. And continued pressure on towards RAIIDUN, who is on this late game hyper carry of Scylla. Once those items start stacking up, those I'm a monsters, we've seen the damage numbers that those can do late game. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see the Wargs put a little bit of extra pressure there. Olllly picked up, but Olllly gonna be ignored. Just probably don't want to ignore the Athena that can taunt you right back in, because Hawkk is where all the focus is for Personel. Where will Sarpeii land? It's back over towards the mid to help deal with the Trebuchet while Personel goes to Pyro.
Yeah, Hawkk got the jungle special, which is one of my laners died, so I'm going to go get some free farm for myself. Speaking for personal experience, one of my favorite things to happen ever is when you're just allowed to solo out a wave and nobody can complain about it. Hawkk on the grayscale for 20 seconds. Can only watch as Personel, who had just taken the Gold Fury previously, grabbed the Pyromancer as well. Olllly on retreat. Was barely an execute threshold, but no way Itori would have been able to get it off in time. A dive potential here from Itori. No blink available means there's pretty low likelihood of it happening. Personel once more, just setting a much better pace here. And I think it really does come down to this neutral objective play. Personel given the barest of opportunities, take away the Gold Fury on the left. Niflheim Wargs, who were 5 stacked on right and had wiped every member of Personel on right, reset to base, left Pyromancer up. Personel said, oh, word, we'll take this one too.
So 2 objectives for Personel. Only 2 kills to the 4, but those objectives have been able to help them stabilize at least what the Niflheim Wargs have done elsewhere on the map. I mean, we come to the beginning of this week. Personel against Hex Mambo, absolute blowout of a match. The 1 versus 8 doesn't even look like they're... I was going to say they're not in the same league, because they technically aren't in the same league.
Quite literally
But it
aren't.
felt like we were watching like the top of collegiate, like football versus like a mid-pack high school squad at one point with how
Good Lord.
brutal those matches were.
Hex
But it's
Mambo's
been
like NFL, come on.
I was giving that, okay. Well, maybe we'll come back to the analogy after Personalized goes down here, because this is guaranteed to death, especially with that execute available. Okay, so maybe like low-tier NFL versus like top-tier high school or something like that in that regard.
Yeah, it's like the Titans versus any high school team.
Regardless through, Personel's made a complete flip of what this team looked like. You go from barely being able to find a single kill against the team to now beating a number 4 SCC team. Niflheim Wargs, who were the number 6, also were able to find a win against that 4, so maybe this is the true number 4 seed of the EU SCC. We'll see if Personel can find another win up against this team. Can they be maybe the underdog story to move in to the second half of play, to be the one to knock out 2 SCC squads by your own hands?
I would love to see it, man. And I'd argue legitimately that Personel was sandbagging up against Hex Mambo. And if you want to evaluate, you know, the legitimacy of it and whether or not it's actually a valuable strategy in a double elim tournament, do we think Personel has what it takes to beat Hex Mambo at their strongest? I don't think anybody in the SEC has been able to do it consistently, so maybe Personel decided, hey, let's hold on to some of our strategies. Let's aim for some more realistic teams that we can take down. And so far have looked very good for it, setting a very fast pace here in the first matchup against the Wargs, maintaining gold parity. Duduin caught out.
Beads down. Ultimate gets the beats from Spudio, but there's that global with Olllly showing up, but it's a double root after. Taunt gets beads and Aegis from Sarpeii, but now Cozyx has shown up to the party. Pull off the mark. RAIIDUN shows up as some backup. And despite the fact that we had now 6 people on the left side of the map, not a single person goes down. However, relics, a little bit of a graveyard for some of these players.
I gotta say though, the relic usage from Duduin there was perfect, man. The Aegis on double tap, beads usage clean, pathing into the jungle to make sure that RAIIDUN was there to help out. Had he gone into it to the tower, it would have been much easier for the Niflheim Wargs to kill him. But because he had retreated towards that Scylla, the threat of crush damage a bit higher than the defense offered you by a structure at this portion of the game, 15 minutes in. Great stuff. Auto attacks may have been whiffing a bit, but everything else, perfect.
He's able to keep himself alive, though he's going to be down both relics for about 2 minutes. Spudio still maintaining his Aegis after. And even Sarpeii in that same fight uses both relics to stay alive against Duduin and Olllly, who had shown up to give him a little bit of backup. Now maybe rotation over towards Sarpeii. I don't think Sarpeii realizes that there is 2 other people in the jungle on this side. Now the hammer is there. Duduin knows that he's sitting inside. Sarpeii to the sky. Now sees reeok. Will he continue to go for the fight? He does. Dunks back behind, but taunt is off the mark. Into the Jousty goes. Sarpeii trying to close the gap, but it won't be enough for him to stay alive. It is a 1-for-1 trade. Olllly able to get away from Cozyx. The body block's not quite there to lock down the Athena, but it's jungler for Hunter for Personel.
I like the idea from Sarpeii. He said Duduin might have been perfect on his relic usage, but he still used them, so they're down. Great initiation trying to catch him out there. Sarpeii makes the active decision to trade his life, though. Once he realized reeok was hovering in the jungle, a dunk in, hyper-aggressive, knows that he's going to get at least his 1, but he's going down in exchange. A valuable trade, perhaps, shutting down that ADC. And we get a good idea of why you should have been rotating towards mid. RAIIDUN's been allowed to free farm for a bit too long, and already this Scylla with Polynomicon now as well, that combo's getting a bit dangerous.
I had to look down and make sure that there's a poly for a sec, because saw the Sikkim go through, saw the crush on its way, and then all of a sudden health bar chunked away. I went, wait a sec. Crush hasn't even hit yet. What did that damage look up? Polly in third slot for RAIIDUN, able to take away nearly 3/4 of Hawkk's HP with only 3 items in the build. Might not even need I'm a Monster late game if that combo can continue to connect up against his opponent.
So now Personel, with both neutral objectives back on the map, trying to make something happen beforehand. Initiation onto an Itori, Fatal Strike used defensively. Personel have removed the execute, which means Personalised, 3 levels down, by the way. We'll have a bit better time channeling that Pillars of Agony in some of these team fights. Instead, it's aggressive rotation from Duduin. He's going for the purple, but Sarpeii is going for him.
Duduin is just the constant
feet.
target of aggression. Ult gets beats from 2, Aegis from jungler, but it's not enough. Duduin still goes down. Olllly trying to escape, pulled back in by the gravity well. But not going to be enough to go any further than that. A single pick for the Niflheim Wargs. Gets the beads from Duduin. Aegis still up, but again, costs Sarpeii both of his relics. And now sets up for Primal Fury. There are 4 from Personel here. Personalized level 14 dashes out. Wall double tap onto Olllly. Personalized channels the ult, but it doesn't do anything for him but give him an easier target for the Niflheim Wargs. He'll go right back to the Primal Fury. And barring a miraculous jump in and steal from RAIIDUN, this one goes to Niflheim Wargs.
Yeah, Personel decided they wanted to try their best to defend that one at a numbers disadvantage, gold disadvantage, levels anything that could have been going poorly for him was going into that Gold Fury. Now the Wargs would like their cake and eat it too. Take the objective, the invade, reeok's life for the next 40 seconds. The Niflheim Wargs have swung this game wide open, the largest disparity we've seen so far. And potentially some more. Could go for this tier 1, Duduin. Does have access to the Aegis, but no beads means Sarpei's combo could just do it.
Well, Sarpeii dunks in. All right, I'm going to be honest. I like what Sarpei's doing. Keep down the consistent player, make sure Duduin's uncomfortable.
Yeah, camp this guy.
But has Sarpeii hit a single ultimate on Duduin in like the 4 times he's dunked in this lane?
He's hit at least 1. I don't remember when, but it's
It
happened.
may have been the first.
Because, I don't know.
His last 3 have not.
I'm speaking from the heart right now. This one's from the soul. I have no stats to back it, but it feels like Sarpeii is doing it, right? 2-1-6. He's up at the top on the damage charts. Even if he's not landing the dunk, you know, repositioning ultimates exist.
Yeah, fair.
He's bullying Duduin, like legitimately. Duduin was having a fine time in lane. Now he's at 0-2-1 thinking to himself, man, I haven't been soloed by Spudio once, and Spudio at times hasn't even been involved in the fights against me. For the most part, it's just been Sarpeii.
Yeah, Sarpeii definitely making Duduin uncomfortable on the left side of the map. And has allowed Spudio to net about a 1-level lead. Itori, not quite caught out. He's got backup from Cozyx and from Hawkk as well. Olllly is now turned on as Spudio rotates in. And the 5 strong Niflheim Wargs, Duduin actually walking back towards his lane. Niflheim Wargs recognizes they can maybe go towards a Fire Giant. Pyromancer at least taken for 1.
Yikes.
RAIIDUN smack. Sarpeii to the sky. RAIIDUN will use the ultimate for extra movement. But it's a dunk towards Duduin instead. RAIIDUN goes down. Duduin avoids being hit by the ult, but it will be jumped on by the rest of the squad. Execute is there, but off the mark. It's Cozyx who's got to get the kill. Sarpeii, Aegis and beats, but trapped in the Pillar of Agony. This is big for Personalized to try and turn it around, but Itori lives with a sliver of HP. Spudio credit to the kill, and 3 for the Niflheim Wargs, plus tier 1 and tier 2 tower.
I've never seen a team get this much pressure off the back of an ultimate from Chernobog, man. This Spudio has just been everywhere on the map. Olllly, so unfortunate for him, thinking to himself, I've got the global ultimate. I'll be the guy who's having the numbers advantage in all the engagements. Every time he has gone in, Spudio has been there with him. It turns a 4v4 into a 5v4. Duduin just does not have the resources to match up. And when he does make the rotation, Sarpeii switches targets and says, it's you instead. I don't care about RAIIDUN. Instead, I want to make sure this Cern drops down to 0-3 and successful in doing so. The Niflheim Wargs have set a very good pace in the latter half of this match. Just about getting the actual neutral objectives now. I'd like to see them just head back to base, pick up some sentries, walk over to the Fire Giant, get control of the pit, pull it, and force some more fights. Personel, I'm not sure they've got much left in the tank to stop this one, and if a fight happens, the Niflheim Wargs are just so heavily favored.
Mid laner of the Wargs hitting level 20 means he has access to go back, pick up that Pendulum of Ages, just like he does in the solo lane or Itori. Actually, he doesn't go for the Hero's Axe that's become so popular with that axe pickup. Instead, going towards the Sundering Axe. We haven't seen this in a while, Mifflin. I'm gonna be honest, I almost kind of forgot that this item was the other upgrade for the axe. Maybe we're gonna talk about it a little bit more in the work that Itori can put in with it after Fire Giant goes down. Well, I thought maybe we'd see some kind of fight from Personel, but they just surrender this one. Itori can bully the backline all by himself. Sunder hits. Might want backup. I'm a monster.
Oof.
Off the mark onto Itori. Sarpeii to the back. Finds a few with the dunk. Olllly 1 HP. It's Itori to take him down. Sarpeii grabs one. Cozyx helps with another. Personalised, able to take down one before he falls to the grave. It's only Duduin left alive against 4 of the Niflheim Wargs.
Man, Sarpeii is just not allowed to play Thor anymore. If I'm Personel, I've taken notice because that dunk into the back line onto RAIIDUN, it was just perfect. Isolates him, raw double hammer as well. And the Niflheim Wargs feast off an initiation like that. Sarpeii just getting way too much value on this Thor pick.
2 towers up, but only 2 that are going to be alive to maybe even try and defend this one. Olllly up in 2. 4 versus 2 now with Duduin, but never mind. Duduin back to the fountain. Execute. Not going to hit this time. Itori low. Can't stick around too long in this fight. Duduin swinging back against the Hunter.
3,
but
2.
4 of the Niflheim Wargs go through. Duduin dunks in, but Hawkk takes him out, and the Titan along with it. Niflheim Wargs take game number 1.
It was a highly contentious early game. Personnel actually outpacing in neutral objectives, but by the team fight phase had rolled around, the first couple 5-on-5 engagements, there was a massive gap in experience in play on field, and the Wargs, they just come out better for it. Target selection, target just jump on ability. Sarpei's closing gap every single time, and nobody's playing around it to peel him in the back line. It was just too clean. That was a phenomenal performance. Not only from Sarpeii, though, got to give some credit to Spudio.
Yeah, this double global pressure that came from the Niflheim Wargs really came out big for them in game number 1. They take the lead in this best-of-3 set. Can they keep this going for a 2-0? Can they send the SOC team home in the next one? We'll find out after this break.
Welcome back, everyone. The Wargs take a 1-0 lead here in this set and potentially are sending themselves forward if they can win game number 2. Again, this is an elimination match. Whoever loses goes home. And for Personel, it's time to turn things around if they want to make their way towards not just the elimination stage of this, but also to groups and also to Worlds. And speaking of Worlds, if you have a team that is already there, maybe one of the 4 SPL teams that's waiting for you, or anybody in the group stage that's waiting for you, I've got great news in ways that you, or if you have a friend who's a really big fan, can represent them. We've got team hoodies. If you want to go up there, you can grab them. Beautiful colors, beautiful merchandise, of course, all brought to you by Skulls. You can go to shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL or shop.smiteproleague.com, and those will be there. And not only that, you should be able to, again, maybe throw them out there as like a gift if you have a friend who's really into it, or if you really want one, just drop those hints as heavily as possible. My version of dropping a hint is usually, hey, Katie, I want this, with a link, and then seeing maybe later on in the year if that's end up what I get. But the hoodies will be there. There's also t-shirts, of course, the jerseys, and a lot more there. In the event that for some reason in the cold weather that is December and then soon the coming winter, that you just don't want a hoodie. I can't imagine why. Either way, they're all good merchandise. So we will see what well, I don't know where that segue was going. That fell apart on the go through. So instead, we're just going to jump to Trelly.
Hi.
You can save me. You're my life raft. Wargs win game number 1. And as Mifflin had said towards the end of that one, not maybe as strong during neutral objective stuff, but the minute it became a team fight phase, everything fell apart for Personel.
Yeah, I personally was a big fan of Sarpeii, who was just saying, I'm going to use every single ultimate in duo lane and make sure Duduin is having the worst time possible. They weren't always connecting, but the Thor was looking good with the damage follow-up. It just seemed to me like, if you were watching Sarpeii fight, it was probably right here in duo lane. Like, it just did not stop. And I think, again, Hawkk on the Merlin, a pick that I'm surprised that he was able to get, considering how well he's been able to pilot this character. It looks like just sending it back and forth is going to be the call. Very impressed with Sarpeii and Hawkk, and I think the team as a whole, this was a not very close game number 1 here for the Niflheim Wargs. If you are Personel, you're hoping to make some adaptations, and looking at the picks, there's a lot that you might want to look towards. Itori also with this movement speed style Achilles build, just rotating out of lane quickly, taking that armor off, and absolutely popping off in the early. It's certainly helped out the rest of the team get to this point where, you're ending the game at 23 minutes with a solid 11k gold lead.
Yeah.
You're feeling pretty good.
I think it's one of those things that, we saw the soul ban from Hawkk specifically, trying to target that. I think something has to be said. I mean, Thor, look, 3-3-12, maybe not, I was going to say maybe not phenomenal. I think that looks really good no matter what. But 5-1-7, we saw the Achilles get banned yesterday for this exact reason. The duo lane goes undying. Like you said, there's maybe a lot to clean up for Personel. But the similar thing happened yesterday against the Ferryman. We can see what they maybe do as they adapt into game number 2. And are you looking specifically at controlling the Wargs in picks and bans, or are you looking at changing some things as well for Personel? Or do you think that Personel had a draft that could do it, it's just they were up against something that made it too difficult?
Yeah, I think that Personel's draft wasn't exactly the issue. It was more so just how aggressive the Wargs were playing. If your whole plan is to get to late game, facilitate a Scylla, facilitate with this Hades, then you probably need a little bit more early pressure.
Yeah.
So if that's the adaptation that needs to be made, then Personel, no, hey, we need a little bit more early pressure. We can't just sit on the back. But I think it was just a bit of the Wargs just coming out swinging. I think it might have taken them off guard.
Well, we'll see if the Wargs can continue to keep swinging, or Personel are going to plant their feet and fight back here in game number 2. Personel will be taking first pick this time around. And I go back to what I was saying in game number 1, where it just feels like there's so much available up towards the top. This is a rare one, and I don't think I'm going to lock this in as a first pick, but I feel like if Merlin is not a ban in this one, it's a very contended pick for these two teams. I wouldn't be surprised if it's top 3 for one of these squads.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. I think the Thor needs to come into contention as well if you are Personel, because giving that over to Sarpeii just seems like Sarpeii feels very confident. Even, again, some handful of Dons were off the mark, but the walls and the damage were consistent. I think that's enough to make sure that you either, A, are not picking characters that you don't want to be walled off, and it looks like actually the Wargs are the ones who are going to take that pick away because they don't want to give it over to Personel. they're not in first pick slot. They can't control where that Thor goes. So they're just going to take that fear away. But Personel are actually going to first pick that Fafnir. That's a pick that a lot of these teams have been prioritizing. Maybe because of the strength of double hunters. Maybe just because of how much you can shred objectives with a Fafnir. Probably smart to try and grab that pick before anything else. That does leave open the Cernunnos that has been so highly contested as well in this circuit.
The good news is that, normally we're used to seeing, like, if Ishtar gets banned, then Cern or Cupid gets banned. And with Cernunnos locked in, but Cupid not banned, it means there's still a hunter for Personel that is in the top of the list, at least, the tier list, for them to go for. Osiris, super early on in the draft, though. Whether it's jungle or solo is kind of up in the air. I've been liking Itori on the Achilles or on anything where he can get aggressive. It feels like Osiris could match that kind of style.
Yeah, I think so as well. And it has a pretty decent matchup into Cupid. If you can just use your ultimate to immune Fields of Love, you've got some great chase down. I'm just imagining an Osiris in the back line. So far, we only see a Cupid, but now we see a double Guardian start here for the Personel draft. And that's going to be always annoying to do with. There's so much CC that Artio and Fafnir can provide, as well as the lockdown from Cupid. You got to assume another hunter's coming for Personel. We could, but the Wargs are going to lock in that double hunter immediately. No magical damage so far on the side of the Wargs. Just going to be that Osiris, the Cern, and then the Charybdis, another pick that I would say is the current number 4 in this league, which is interesting because Heimdall is usually in that topic of conversation, but I think Charybdis has really been rising as of recent. The decent matchup into Cupid, and also just the amount of her early clear and safety she provides.
That's that safety, right? You mentioned all the CC that comes with the double Guardian, and suddenly they're like, hold on, man. I need to be able to stay alive without having to drop my relics every single time. Luckily, Whirlpool form does that and then some. As the band starts to roll through the Ratatosker and the Merlin band, so I'm not surprised to see it banned out. Just knowing that they're going for the double hunter means that you have to change something up if you're Personel. On the other side, the Xingqian and the Ganesh that gets banned away. Hawkk in the Alice one more time here for the Wargs. Lancelot and TBD, but they're hovering an AMC. Have not been seeing a lot of Muzen Cobb since his nerfs.
I was not expecting the AMC lock in there, but has certainly some good matchups here into, I don't know, Atlas and the Cern, for example, just being able to cripple those dashes. The nerfs did hurt his early clear, and also, more specifically, hurt that Stinger. But as long as you're able to consistently pick it up and stay out of trouble until your ult cooldown's back up, shouldn't be the biggest deal. I just think double Hunter with a Fafnir is always going to be an incredible late game, especially around those objectives, whereas the Wargs have their double Hunter as well. But a lot of CC from the Osiris, the Atlas, and the Chulainn. Looks like all-out dive coming from the Wargs.
Chulainn is one that we also haven't seen, not just this weekend, but in a long time.
Yep.
I guess we'll get to see what the Chulainn can provide here for the Wargs. Can they do it in 2, or will Personel push us to 3?
Well, it's going to take a lot for Personel to bring this one back to a game number 3, but it is possible. Remember, they did it earlier against the higher-seeded SCC team in the Styx Ferryman. They were able to win game number 2, bring it back, and take game number 3. But we got to jump in and get through game number 2 to see that point first. To do that, it's J-Mac Mifflin joining me, and Doug as our observer, as per usual, the spectator of the gods. And I think that's a proper title for Doug, for how long he's been doing this, for how much Smite. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Doug has consumed more Smite than probably any of us have as far as broadcasts go, with how much that he's put out on the observer position for that. And wouldn't have it any other way, wouldn't have any other person to help bring us this match.
Yeah, we are in good hands, and what is only can be a phenomenal game here. Looking at some of the adjustments from Personel, reeok on the Lancelot still very aggressive throughout the early game. Whether or not he's going to be able to match aggression with Sarpeii, probably not. Not many things can deal with an Osiris with mannequins throughout the early. Otherwise, love the adaptation from RAIIDUN, who's really leaned in towards pressure in mid. Personalized on a pick that should be able to be left alone on the island means that Personel can kind of mitigate some of that aggressiveness we had seen towards the solo that Niflheim Wargs had really leaned towards in game 1. Otherwise, Niflheim Wargs, expect them to try and do exactly what they had done in the previous game. This is a draft that can really, really get active early on.
I got Personalized even dragged a couple minions over to the totem. Kind of double up on farming wave and farming objective there. Pressure has pretty much gone exclusively to the Niflheim Wargs across all fronts. And as you said, hard to fight against the Osiris Mannequin Scepter. Plus, you throw an extra Hunter there in the mid for the added damage. Even over into the dual lane, the Charybdis that was banned away in game number 1 gets picked up for Spudio. Couple that with Cozyx on the Atlas. Seems to have been able to outpressure Olllly into Duduin early on. It's tough for Personel to try and get some early game pressure when you're losing out on most fronts, but this could be a great opportunity back in. Unfortunately, Duduin and Olllly expended pretty much everything they had to get that damage through, not able to take down Cozyx just yet. Maybe setting up for a fight to reeok or RAIIDUN, maybe even just go for the red buff, get out if you can. But red buff is secured by Personel. Cozyx rotating in, but he's got to be careful. His HP is not the healthiest for this fight.
No, and the fight is over, fortunately for Cozyx. Unfortunately, Olllly was also forced to rotate, so misses out on a little bit of farm in lane. Cozyx already nursing a slight experience advantage and resustained very well with all of his HP pods. Keeping my eyes on purple buff rotations going forward. You'd really expect the lane that has got the Cupid to be able to get aggressive. Fortunately, the Niflheim Wargs have already secured their purple buff, and Cozyx maintains his Hawkk, so if there is another rotation aggressively, we'll have that defensive utility available to him. As of now, the Wargs playing very well around their strong point. Sarpeii getting active all the way across the map, invades back camps on right, tries his best to invade that red buff as well. Hawkk just not quite able to secure it.
And reeok actually gave up on farming the Scorpion, thinking maybe he can go for a play towards Itori. Itori wants to go for the kill on a Personalised, but ends up having to leap away after damage got put down under the tower. TP available for the Artio, so Personalised shouldn't lose out on too much from this back. RAIIDUN, though, like gonna lose a bit here. Beads expended. Sarpeii ults out from the damage of the tower, but 2 big relics now taken off the table from Personel.
Yeah, I mean, that was a hyper-aggressive dive from Sarpeii, just walking to the tower before he even made his first back. That was really, really dangerous. If reeok was anywhere nearby, likely would have been to secure that kill for his team, but lagging slightly behind in farm means that without level 5, wasn't going to be looking for the engagement in mid. Sarpeii finds this opportunity, strips away the relic, and now AMC, an immobile hunter, without any form of CC immunity for the next 2 minutes, might just have to play incredibly safe going forward. Even Hawkk in the 1v1 has got a good deal of solo potential, so long as that wild hunt connects.
If I'm Cozyx, knowing that there's an AMC with no safety for the next 2 minutes, I'm probably making a rotation over there as soon as I get the opportunity to do so, especially because Sovereignty's already online. Going to be a little bit tankier to help dive these towers, give Sarpeii maybe a bit of assistance there. So I'd like to see Cozyx rotate out of this duo lane. Let Spudio just kind of free farm, do his own thing like they did last time around. Maybe put some pressure towards some of these other parts of the map. We do see Cozyx now leaving this duo lane side of the map, heading over towards mid. Maybe he can get something going against RAIIDUN. Has actually scared this AMC off the buff. Sarpeii is here, and RAIIDUN should go down. Stinger's not going to do a whole lot. Missed ultimate by Sarpeii. They used a lot to take down the mid laner, but it's first blood for the Niflheim Wargs.
Sarpeii, so used to acting like a solo agent, wasn't quite ready for the CC from his own ally. Fortunately, it doesn't matter when AMC is that far out of tower without any form of defense for himself. An easy pickup for the Niflheim Wargs. First blood secured, and a massive gold lead at that. That is sizable. 5 minutes in, before any neutral objectives has fallen as well. Totem slight advantage over the Niflheim Wargs. So that could be where some of that lead has been established. Otherwise, gotta think a lot of it just held in the jungle as of now. A full level lead for Sarpeii.
Mid camps are mostly been going over towards the Wargs. RAIIDUN was trying to get the one on the left side, but as soon as Cozyx turned the corner, he left the one Harpy that was standing there. Cozyx will go back to see if it goes down. Oracle Harpy's actually the call for Niflheim Wargs, while Scorpion already dealt by them. Instead, now it's over towards the Oracles. So for Niflheim Wargs, the 1,500 gold lead off the back of only a single kill means they've been able to triple that first blood bounty just by the merits of farm on the map alone.
And the strength of this Wargs draft is their ability to just deal with these objectives at that. So expect them to play around that Gold Fury very aggressively. Double Hunter composition, incredibly strong for neutral objectives. Auto attack jungler as well means you've got a ton of burn. Might be lacking a bit in secure, but steal potential lacking from Personel. No standard mage in their draft. Best odds for an objective steal, maybe reeok from the Spectral Horse Otherwise, a stinger from RAIIDUN, but pretty easy to block those situations.
Taken by Cozyx, doesn't fully grab reeok. Channels the ultimate as well. Olllly, as soon as he lands back down, goes for a stun on the Cozyx. Might want to just jump out of this fight though, because he's already at half HP himself. Will he transform almost immediately, recognizing the fight has fizzled out. And now the pressure's been put back over towards Duo and Duduin specifically. Picked up by Duduin. Good slam. Duduin wants to get this purple buff though. 2v2 fight for it. This one, Hawkk was available, so Duduin gets the purple. Can Cozyx get out? Fields of Love still available, but not going to be fired off this time.
Yeah, Spudio just putting out a whole lot of damage there. Surprised that Fields of Love was held through that entire exchange. Won't find too much value up against Cozyx, who's itemized very well for it. Not only the sovereignty to deal with that physical damage, but also the heavenly sprint. Means Fields of Love just will not connect so long as that relic is available. So good decision from Duduin. Just hold on to that ultimate cooldown. But if you want to force that heavenly, if you want there to be opportunities to actually connect with this Atlas, I'm thinking Fields of Love is going to need to be used at some point.
Sarpeii on the way. Grab just off the mark, so Sarpeii recognizing, okay, well, that's our main initiation CC down. He'll go ahead and head his way back to base. Picks up a tier 2 tower shield to go alongside that golden blade. It's a little bit of defense now for Sarpeii being worked on. Olllly stuns out one, but manages to steal away the scepter from two. Something about Fafnirs and their hammers, man. They somehow are able to weave these ones in every single time to get these steals.
I couldn't tell you how it's happened as consistently as it has, but I can only tell you that it has. And Olllly keeps in line with the trend. Niflheim Wargs not too upset, I'm sure, having lost out on just one scepter, especially considering the state of the game as it is, but gonna need to clean those up as we start to approach the actual neutral objectives. Can't let that happen around a Gold Fury or a Pyromancer. Red buff, respawned. Niflheim Wargs, they're first.
Sarpeii chopping away at it. Stinger hits the Osiris. Sarpeii wants to jump over the wall with ult and has it. Olllly chases him down, transforms in, and Spudio has got to ult away from the Fields of Love. Duduin gets transformed into a pig, but not going to get too much value beyond there. Cozyx low, Sarpeii as well. Niflheim Wargs have got to back out, but Olllly goes back in to try and keep this fight extended for a little while longer. They come up empty-handed in the kill department.
Man, Cozyx has found just infinite value from the sovereignty so far. He's put himself in very precarious positions, but having a physical jungler, hunter, and mid laner on the side of Personel means that there's really not much you can do about it just yet. If Stinger connects more consistently, some of that defense shred, which has been nerfed, it's down to about 10%, I believe, will still help out a good deal up against Cozyx. But look at Cozyx's build, too. I mean, my man is unconcerned. Restored Artifact in second slot. Wants a bit more damage.
This CDR kind of showing some light towards something that Awesome Jake was doing at the Pro League level, which was just to build a Chronos Pendant. Typically, he was building it like first item, but now going into second item, potentially, for Cozyx. More cooldowns, gives him a little bit of that extra punch for his damage as well. Well, let's see how it works out for Cozyx. I mean, so far with just the Sovereignty, he's been getting away just about every single opportunity that he had. The only real magic damage he's got to be concerned with is Fafnir, who's not building any damage, and Artio, who's built a single damage item so far. We'll have two once that starter item is fully upgraded late game, but the pace the Niflheim Wargs are trying to set doesn't seem like they're aiming for a late game.
Yeah, I wonder. Cozyx could triple dip, or double dip rather, into defense and next slot for physical. And if you're really concerned about a CDR stack, Breastplate of Valor probably just fine here. Otherwise, maybe a mid guard to deal with the double hunter draft, maybe a Witchblade as well. I think perhaps one dedicated magical defense item, all you really need. It's not as if Personalised is going to really all in on that magic damage style of build. Pythag's piece first, standard. Otherwise, just straight up defense afterward. Cozyx in a very good position to essentially do whatever he wants in build. Pyromancer pulled and taken by the Wargs. Can they disengage? Sarpeii has got access to that ultimate, will use it.
Does, but reeok closes the gap, jumps off the horse, and puts the jungler in the dirt. Hawkk stunned out, Stinger eaten by Cozyx this time around. He'll pick up Olllly and toss him away. Stun is good. There are 4 people surrounding this Atlas, and no chance Then he makes it out. It's a double kill for the jungler of Personel.
No disengage from the Wargs this time. Neutral objective may have gone their way, but 2 in exchange. Not exactly the most valuable trades either. Having shut down Sarpeii a bit, slowing him down, gives over a lead to reeok. That said, everything we had talked about with the Niflheim Wargs being able to leverage aggression towards the Gold Fury is available to Personel as well. Only difference being that Spudio has just been dominant in this lane so far. An entire level lead over Duduin, who is just now ticked over to 11. Spudio comfortably at level 12 will get access to that secondary relic upon his back. I think Niflheim Wargs maybe a bit concerned with that disengage, but shouldn't allow it to slow them down. I'd like to see them keep up that aggression.
Blink by Sarpeii to try and block off the path of the Cupid. Ultimate not available to the Osiris just yet. That's a blink for basically nothing. Duduin got to be happy that Sarpeii didn't have that ultimate to chase up after that, but it has opened up a path for the Gold Fury for the Niflheim Wargs. Olllly is here. A couple of other members starting to rotate through. Sarpeii spots Duduin, and they'll transfer their target swap from the Fury over towards the Cupid, but Sarpeii is the one eating the damage. Grand Joust in, doesn't land the damage,
Big
and the
whiffs!
horse miss afterwards. Fields of Love not going to get anything either. Stinger onto Cozyx. A lot of commit to kill Sarpeii, a lot to try and take out Cozyx, but Personel come up empty-handed this time.
Unfortunate. reeok just decides to go for the skill shot. Had he pressed 2 instead of 1, likely would have just gotten the kill on a Sarpeii. A TKO still pretty valuable if Personel is able to grab this Gold Fury. Sarpeii not even on the rotation in, so it's just a 3-stack for now. Make it 4 with Itori.
5 versus 4. Gold Fury low. Itori goes in
Got
and
it.
steals it away with just the Salmon Leaf. Gets a double knockup with the ult. Root onto RAIIDUN. Gets the beads from the AMC. And now Personalised left by himself to try and run, though there is a bracer to give him that extra movement speed on the retreat. So subjective stolen away by the might of Itori, and the Niflheim Wargs able to keep this lead for themselves and extend it to a little over 2,000.
Man, such a tough situation for Personel. You just don't have it in your draft for coin tosses like that. Maybe AMC and Cupid, if they heart bomb, swarm of bees at the exact same time, you're able to beat that out, but Itori able to weave in with that leap, taking away the neutral objective off what would have been a massive win for Personel. Suppose the Sarpeii kill drop doesn't necessarily matter. Would have been a 4v5 regardless, considering his rotation path. So just unfortunate for Personel. Gotta play very wary of those rotations going forward.
Now we'll see what Niflheim Wargs do with this 2,000 gold lead. With the 1,000 or so they had earlier on, they kept up pressure throughout. And I think talking kind of about this duel lane, we dialed in onto it earlier. It was a 1-level difference between Spudio and Duduin, with literally goose eggs amongst the column across the board for both of them. And this is a lead that Spudio didn't really get to build up last game until we started seeing rotations from Sarpeii, until we started seeing kills onto Duduin. So this one is just by his own merits this time, whether they be TKOs to send Duduin away or neutral farm just going much more in favor of the Niflheim Wargs. Spudio, with that level half lead, backs up and gets a full executioner to go with his kin size.
Could have been the triple purple buff invade. Could have been the plethora of scepters they've been able to grab for themselves as well. The Niflheim Wargs have set up their duo lane in a very good position. Personel not making too many rotations back over. It's generally just reeok going for the counter initiation off of hyper-aggressive plays from Sarpeii. With not much to fight over on the map as of now, could be that Personel dedicates some time to this purple buff. Spudio here for the defense. Hawkk on the rotation in as well. Walks into RAIIDUN, and a great trade for the Chaos.
RAIIDUN almost gone. Knockback from reeok. May have just saved the life of the mid laner, but Sarpeii still pressing forward. Olllly slowed down. Will try and walk away, and does. And I was wondering who popped that horrific emblem there, Mifflin.
Yeah.
It wasn't the support. That was Sarpeii who dropped that one.
So Sarpeii should be dying. Full stop. He should just be dying going forward. The CC stack from Personel should make it easy to shut down this Osiris, especially with how he has to position in team fights. Just crazy that he elects to not pick up these beads. CC from reeok, Personalised, Duduin, Olllly, all could make it difficult for this Osiris to operate.
Got a little jumpy there for a moment. I saw a hammer on the way from Olllly. We've seen it steal before, but he got body blocks, and Niflheim Wargs get the Pyromancer and they're able to get out. Not much further commit by Personel to try and go for any extended team fight. Instead, will now make their way back towards the lanes, towards some of the other neutral objectives on the map, some of the neutral farm, like the mid-Harpy camp that goes over to Personel. But that Pyromancer continues to bump up that gold lead for the Niflheim Wargs ever so slightly. Even though the kills aren't going too far, these TKOs, these small objectives that keep going to the Wargs, now extended their lead to 2,500 gold. But experience is pretty even at this point, even despite the deficit of the duo lane.
And the gold lead not so massive, I think, that Niflheim Wargs can feel confident in their ability to just force fights with wild abandon. Hasn't stopped them just yet. Seems to me that Sarpeii has got zero concern for his own life. Look no further from it than his relic selections to confirm that analysis. Personnel certainly still in this one. This next Primal Fury, when I'm minute out from the respawn, could be very indicative of the rest of this match.
Niflheim Wargs with a slight lead. And their mid laner getting at least a decent bit of extra damage towards his slot now. Odysseus bow for the team fights for Hawkk, and working in towards a balance blade now. Kin size on the way for the Cernunnos. We've been seeing a lot of top damage Cernunnos so far throughout this event. Seems that every time we kind of peek over, he's topping the charts. Still sitting around the middle of the pack right now, behind the Soul Laners and 2 of the other 3 Hunters that are in the game. But RAIIDUN again, jumped on by Sarpeii. Hawkk will join him. That's a kill on towards the mid laner. 2 now for the Niflheim Wargs. And where's the response? reeok bats Itori away. Olllly shows up, transforms to avoid the pull. Duduin drops the Fields of Love. Only Cozyx caught inside. Personalised is chasing down the jungler, but does Personalised have the damage by himself to kill this Osiris? He may have stepped now too far out of position. Blinks in for the Osiris, but that's an easy jump out. Personalised not going to get grabbed out of the dash. Now with Duduin back in, the fight for Personel is getting better. Hawkk and Spudio in danger. The double Hunters pushed against the wall. Hawkk is low, Cozyx is gone, and so is Hawkk. Personalised takes him out.
Man, what a great collapse in from Personel. In particular, Olllly with the pincer just catches their rotations. Personalised realizing, I can't disengage. The entirety of the Wargs are behind me instead. The only way out is going in. Chases out Sarpeii, forces the defensive Lord of the Afterlife. And from there, Personel take the team fight cleanly. Gold Fury, Primal Fury as well to Personel. And we are right back to a completely even state, I'd argue. Experience maintained about exactly where it was, but gold closes up a good deal. The Niflheim Wargs, if they want to win in 2, they're going to have to reestablish this lead.
We were talking earlier about Cozyx going into this heavy physical composition, could get a little bit more physical defense, maybe a magic defense to help out. Didn't do either of that when Divine Ruin 3rd slot, so not a very tanky Atlas, which might be why he's dying so easily in some of these team fights.
But look at the itemization for Personel so far. No magic defense stacked up anywhere. It's Fizdie across the board. Cozyx saying, hey, you're going to have to build some of it. I know there's only one of me over here that's dealing magical damage, but I will be dealing it. Chronos Pendant into Divine Ruin immediately. You lose out on some of your initiation. You lost it in 2 spots. Sarpeii cannot just walk in aggressively, not until he stacks up some defense. So for the most part, if a team fight's going to start for the Wargs, it'll likely be Itori getting in first.
Itori's been allowed to just kind of fight on his own on the right side of the map. Haven't seen any rotation from the junglers to deal with them, but I mean, how do you really deal with an Artio versus a Chulainn? You kind of just let that match do as it pleases until level 20. That might be when we finally see these Soul Laners really start to get up and involved, or maybe at least for Itori to try and get something going for his team, because it's 1-0-3 for Personalised. He's been a part of every single one of these kills that his team has been able to get so far. And with that fight back, Personel has been able to close up the gold lead. Was sitting around 2,500 earlier, now just under 1,000, give or take, that Niflheim Wargs have up still. Personel are still fighting back despite this deficit.
But you gotta feel like the Niflheim Wargs are still playing with a bit more pizzazz. They're getting aggressive on map. Regardless of map state, it seems to me the Niflheim Wargs realize our composition is great at fighting as 5. Let's force these engagements around objectives. Let's look for picks. Let's rotate in. As of now, pick sought after on the left. Only neutral objective up on the right. If Personel are aware of this, and they are now, could potentially look for a dive into a Pyromancer combo.
Triple dive towards Itori. He'll have his transformation immediately after that one. Now it's a fight onto Duduin, who used his dash earlier, doesn't have the ult, but got the dash back up. But that's just created enough space for Spudio to take not just tier 1, but tier 2 tower. Personel's response back. Start the Pyromancer. Itori jumped on by 3. Cozyx pulls one of them away. Itori is getting low, but not low enough. Hawkk is here to play bodyguard for his solo laner. And Itori just makes it out. The B's not enough. Sarpeii goes back in the fight, but not much more that he can do without some extra assistance. All 5 of Personel here, but nobody falling low on the wargs just yet.
Here's the reinitiation. Phenomenal stun for Personalised. The damage from Duduin already starting to stack up significantly. Has upgraded his glyph, got the Odysseus bow as well, so a good deal of AoE damage the Niflheim Wargs are going to have to contend with. And Sarpeii realizing, I think, man, beats kind of would have been pretty nice here. Would have been real nice to be able to just avoid 80% of my HP being taken away from me instantly. I think it's got to be a defense stack from here. Don't expect this to be the Sprack Osiris full damage jungle. You kind of need beads to do that. So instead, I wouldn't be so surprised to see just a dedicated physical defense item in next slot.
Did manage to get that Witchblade along with the Berserker Shield. So a little bit of physical defense in that regard. But I think you're right to say maybe see a little bit more coming from there. But 3,000 gold up for the Wargs off that objective. They didn't get any other kills. This is still a 4-2 game. But it's been objective play more than anything. These Furies, these Pyromancers have majority been going over to the Niflheim Wargs, which has been keeping them in the lead. One Fury did go, at least over to Personel. That kind of closed that one up to about 1,000. But this farm, these knockouts where I'm not getting the kill, but you're not going to be able to stick around, have been working real well for the Niflheim Wargs.
Yeah, and Personel have just really struggled to stop the initiations from Itori. Around that gold free where he salmon leaps for the steal, walking to the Pyromancer and just saying, hey, I've got steal potential. You saw it earlier, but I'm also incredibly tanky. Was able to drag every single member of Personel off the objective and narrowly survives. The Niflheim Wargs taking the Pyromancer afterward. And now significant grouping around the Fire Giant as well. This would be a wild call to pull it out. Personel, very quick on the uptake, have already stacked up his 5.
Yeah, that's a full 5-on-5 around the pit. The question will be, do the Wargs pull it to try and bait Personel in?
They do. Oh my God.
Seems to be so. Man, willed it into existence by Cozyx. He'll tank it, but again, Cozyx isn't very tanky. He is getting absolutely shredded by Personel, but Itori to the back line, finds a couple with the ult, dives in, gets the transform, but is it too late for him? It is. Duduin drops him down with the Fields of Love, and now it's a chance for Personel to dive back in. Sarpeii stunned, Heart Bomb on top, barely able to get over the wall, but reeok and Personalised will chase him down. Sarpeii is gone.
Bro, I am telling you, the Niflheim Wargs, they're not looking at their screen when they're making these calls, man. They walked in with confidence. I wouldn't be surprised if during P's and B's, their coach says, 24 minutes in, pull Fire Giant. I don't care what the game state is. And they just do it. Cozyx loses out on 20% to the objective, and then the other 40 from just Odysseus bow.
Double stun on the 2 Hunters. Spudio has got to go into the Whirlpool.
Firewall.
Olllly is low. That fire ring, not quite enough to take out Olllly. Personalised, the one-man army into the backline, has stunned not just the Hunters twice by himself, but does it again. Stopping all 3 of them, and may just be the reason that Personel walks out unscathed.
Niflheim Wargs able to defend with good damage, though. Hawkk and Spudio remind Personalised that they do have the damage between them to take care of this Artio. And with Cozyx playing a bit more subdued in that 3 versus 5, not exactly just walking into the objective, was able to prevent Personel from pulling the Fire Giant, which is a massive win from the Wargs from that position. And the Wargs, once more, just pull another objective. This time, the Oni Fury, and it should go quick.
They got double Hunter, no crit, so it takes a little while longer to do so, but able to grab that one there and now rotate back over towards the right side of the map. Cozyx able to finish the starter item now, so he's got more defense finally, but he's still just getting absolutely melted by RAIIDUN Duduin. That stinger hits, removes what little protection that he does have built up. Allows Duduin to just chunk through his HP. Ferocious Executioner already picked up as well, so if that's that first target that Duduin can get a hit onto, Cozyx doesn't stand much of a chance.
No, Cozyx, I think at this point has just all in on the best defense is a good offense. We'll see how he goes forward with this build. Niflheim Wargs reestablish defensive positioning in the Fire Giant pit. Retake vision as well. I'm keeping my eyes on Sarpeii. Seems that the Niflheim Wargs play at their best when he's allowed to walk into that back line. Hasn't had too many of those opportunities recently. And it's the Wargs once more, down 4 kills, 6-2 on the top, pull the Fire Giant.
See if they hold on to it this time. To the backline goes Itori. Once again, double ult. But here comes reeok, the stinger onto the Chulainn, who is pushed back. Hawkk, low, personalized, diving the backline on his own, is keeping 3 out of this fight. And now he's keeping Hawkk out as well, but a massive turnaround for the Niflheim Wargs. Itori shuts down the mid laner. Spudio running away on the maw. Personalized, crippled out of his dash, and Itori, the lone army of himself, is constantly batting away at these hunters. Personel's backline cannot stay in these fights.
Personalized blinks in and disengages immediately afterward. The Niflheim Wargs were playing a different game. That wasn't Smite, that was Pinball. The 3-man pull in from Cozyx on his Astrolabe into 3-man shove from Itori. Personel gotta have Whiplash getting repositioned that quickly in the backline. And the dive is successful. RAIIDUN falls down. The Niflheim Wargs willing to pull it in a 5 versus 5. 5 versus 4. Of course the Fire Giant's been picked up.
Itori much tankier to be able to hold on to the Fire Giant. reeok, if he goes back to base, that's going to put even more of a deficit towards Personel. Sarpeii chopping away at the Fire Giant. Itori doesn't find anybody with the ult that time around.
So
and Personalized stuns a couple. The Wargs get the Fire Giant. Cozyx ults onto Duduin. How much can he do to the Cupid, and how much can Sarpeii do to the backline of Personel? Frenzy expended by Olllly, but maybe as a defensive tool to say, get off my team, Wargs. Please, God, spare us.
Man, that was such a strange Fire Giant as well. Both Personalized and Olllly in the pit. Fire Giant at sub 10% for upwards of 5 or 6 seconds there. And Olllly doesn't use a single one of his abilities trying to attempt to steal this time around. I think maybe loses a bit of the plot, realizing, or not realizing, that the Niflheim Wargs were absolutely willing to coin toss in that situation. And the Wargs do secure Fire Giant on all 5 members. Now, we get a good look at what the siege is going to be like, and it's good for the Niflheim Wargs. Double Hunter composition, the initiations from Itori will only become easier to execute on. He's been blinking in to the ultimate every single time. In these restricted spaces around Phoenix, around Tier 2, those ultimates, a bit easier to connect onto multiple targets. I love what we've seen from the Wargs, just confident play across the map. Personel getting outpaced.
And look what Cozyx has finally picked up. If some more defense. This time an Emperor's Armor to maybe help out some of that siege that his team now has the advantage moving in towards.
He doesn't care
Fire
about the
Giant.
defense. He wants the passive, and that's it. If there was a damage item that did it, Cozyx going for it.
But he's got it nonetheless. And that'll help out him and his team. Triple Heart Bomb stun off a minion death there for Duduin. Now Heart Bomb's down for a bit. The Wargs waiting for this minion wave to walk in. Cozyx drops the ult.
Whoa.
Fields of love on towards 3. Sarpeii dives out of it. Itori and Sarpeii dive right into the backline. Spudio takes out Personalized. Duduin drops Sarpeii, and Itori will be the next one to go down. Double ult from Hawkk and the disengage from the Wargs. But the chase is there for Personel, but that CC from Cozyx may have slowed this one down. Olllly goes in by himself to find a stun onto 1, and Personel keep up the chase.
3-man disengage should make it out of here alive. That was Itori and Sarpeii saying, boys, it was good working with you. I'm going in there. We're going to make some space, take the bird, and get out. And the Niflheim Wargs execute on it well. Personel, or Personalized rather, tries his best to create similar space, but one man cannot accomplish the work of 2. And Sarpeii and Itori push back Personel just enough for the Wargs to grab the bird, and now potentially the Primal Fury as well. An entire minute left on this Fire Giant power play. Only 10 seconds left on Itori's respawn. Feels like the Niflheim Wargs have at least got one more Tier 2 tower siege left on this push.
See if they go towards mid or if they go towards right with the remainder of this minute on Fire Giant. Full back though by everybody. And some couple of items picked up as well. Hawkk will pick up a glyph for his executioner, start upgrading some of his relics. Spudio doing the same, fully upgrading his beads to their final tier. Niflheim Wargs seemingly out of nowhere with this wild, kind of just almost reckless play around the Fire Giant seems to have netted them a nice little lead now. As they sit about 8,000 gold up over Personel, pushing in with still a couple of towers left to go.
Yeah, it has not been clean by any stretch of the imagination, but it has simply worked out for the Niflheim Wargs. It's not a Tier 2 tower siege either. The Wargs grouped up on the right. Instead, just pushing up some of these minion waves. Could potentially approach here, but they've spent a lot of time maneuvering the map. I'd have just assumed they would have gone through mid. Shows you shouldn't be making assumptions. The Niflheim Wargs, anything but predictable. Head back to base, should be able to pick up a good deal of wards in pocket, reestablish vision around the Fire Giant. Not even reestablish, bolster. They've got every single bit of vision advantage on the right-hand side of the map. Only one standard ward from Personel around the Fire Giant pit. Personel, though, showing that they've got some gumption left in them. They will be looking to defend this Fire Giant. Didn't love how that last Fire Giant defense looked from them on the left side Phoenix, and instead would like to take the fight in neutral territory.
RAIDUN gonna clear out the fire minions on left. He might be by himself to do so throughout here. Fire Giant up in 20 seconds. Niflheim Wargs will be around to deal with the enhanced Fire Giant that will spawn back in. So it'll be a 4, probably maybe only a 3, maybe not even that much against 5. If Olllly does get picked there, he's able to leap away, heal up thanks to the help of the hearts from Duduin. But reeok hasn't joined into the fight yet. It seems that RAIDUN is going to give up the fight over towards left and help deal with mid. Fire Giant crashing back in here in just a moment. Niflheim Wargs have all the pressure around the pit. Not much of a response back in from Personel yet.
Not the greatest usage of Bracer there from Olllly. Sets up a power point for his team, but so far away from where the fight's actually going to be happening. Could have used that to get a bit more vision further up, get involved in the actual pit itself. Instead, Personel, if they want to fight at their strongest, will have to do it around their own back camps.
Now might be the time to strike. On to Personalized, half HP. Because reeok was not in that fight, dealing with Trebuchet. Minions pouring in to the left side. Now Personel are on the timer. Do they send reeok back to help defend the Titan, to defend the bird that comes back up? Itori eats the stinger. Fire Giant goes to Niflheim Wargs with no contest back. Personalized rooted. Ultimate from Cozyx. Rips through 3. Sarpeii to the backline. But the Fields of Love do slow down the Wargs. reeok is back to be able to defend the bird, but the Titan's still going to take a little bit of damage in the process.
The second reeok shows himself on left, the Niflheim Wargs will walk themselves in towards that mid-tier 2. Taken off the map with extreme prejudice. And so quickly with a double hunter enhanced Fire Giant siege. reeok making his way back to base. Niflheim Wargs already knocking on the door.
A single minion to join Sarpeii on the left side, while 4 versus 4 in the mid. Pull onto Personalized, triple stun, and a lot of damage toward Cozyx. Frenzy by Olllly. Itori stunned down, and Itori erased. RAIDUN puts him down, and the Niflheim Wargs may just have to back away. Now Hawkk has to fight against 4. No crit in the build. This is all going to be to his in-hand, to his healing. He gets stunned out. Beads and Aegis gone from the Cernunnos. Personalized, though, is gone to the damage of Spudio. Hawkk will drop as well. Olllly throwing back, jumps away, but here comes Sarpeii. RAIDUN running for his life from the Osiris. He's out of this fight. Duduin out as well. It's a double for Spudio. Sarpeii, before he's able to go down, helps to drop Olllly. It is only reeok versus the dual lane of the Wargs. And that may just be enough. One more in hand would have done it. But the Niflheim Wargs cannot kill off the jungler. Instead, they're going to have to settle for a Phoenix.
Mid-Phoenix going quickly. reeok on the way out, but not in there in time. Mid-Phoenix falls down, left maintained. A marked improvement for Personel in just being able to get this left side bird up, but how long will it stand? Can reeok hold for 20 seconds while Personalized respawns? No.
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 No. Left Phoenix gone.
No.
Spudio with Enhanced Fire Giant will answer your question for you, Mifflin.
Thanks, Spudio.
Now we have a reset for Niflheim Wargs and Personnel. As everybody's now starting to come off their respawns. 15 seconds to the furthest one out. Niflheim Wargs, Sarpeii will be back up in just a few. So along with mid, tier 2, mid Phoenix, and left Phoenix on its respawn, going to add a Fury to that counter for the Niflheim Wargs. Gold, though, not really mattering at this stage. Experience doesn't matter at all with everybody at 20. It all comes down to the team fights. And when you look back at the last couple of fights that Niflheim Wargs have had, it's always a pull onto Personalised. And what happens after? He eats a lot of damage, stuns 3, and walks out every single time.
Personalised has been really holding up his end of the deal for his team here, man. 3-man stuns, 4-man stuns on cooldown, initiating fights, creating space. This Artio has been a massive thorn in the Wargs' side, but just has not quite had the follow-up needed on some of these initiations. Not easy for RAIIDUN to apply damage in these engagements. It's generally been just bees and honey from a range and then auto attacks to disengage. Not as if they've got a standard mage bit of burst available to them. Niflheim Wargs, 50 seconds left on this Fire Giant push. Only 2 on their belt, but they haven't been concerned about map state or game state once before. Why start now? Tier 2 falls. Right, Phoenix, the only one still standing. Personel in range to defend have done a good job of pushing out these waves in left and center. They've got some time to play with here.
Sarpeii to the mid. The other 4 of the Wargs to the right, with all 5 of Personnel there. Cozyx, the closest thing to a mage on this map. He'll drop ult onto Duduin. Double up from Itori to the backline. Goes reeok, but it's a Sarpeii dunk onto RAIIDUN. 2 are off the map already. Make it 3 with Personalised all by himself in the backline. Olllly transforms, but it may be to his own doom there. Duduin able to try and get away from there. Pull off the mark by Cozyx. With 5 strong of the Niflheim Wargs, they will walk in, take game number 2, move into the second half, and eliminate the SOC team.
That is absolutely criminal what Sarpeii was able to get away with, man. Just walks into the back line so often. Early was punished. Late, I suppose the damage output a bit too much for them to deal with, and Personnel fall a bit short here. The Niflheim Wargs advance themselves in an impressive 2-0 manner.
And probably a 2-0 that they really kind of needed in this regard, you know, kind of going back and forth throughout some of these sets earlier on into the week, having a good showing up against Six Fairmen, who were the higher seeded matchup. Niflheim Wargs now outlasted their number 4 SCC team. They outlasted the team that knocked out that SCC squad. We'll see how they can do in the second half of their bracket. That's it for me and Mifflin. Throw it over to Des. Keep it going.
Now the Wargs, with a nice, comfortable victory for right now, get to move forward and showcase what they have to offer for the rest of this. Again, trying to fight for the top spot. Personnel says goodbye. SOC, the open circuit teams here in Europe, have been eliminated now, Trelly. But instead of focusing in on them, even though I think that, you know, Personnel, good drafts, things like that, we can talk about game number 2, how the Wargs got to this point. And there was a point where Mifflin had said, it's like, you know, they haven't cared too much about the map state or what was going on team fight-wise, numbers-wise. Just kept taking the fights. I mean, even that last one, 15,000 gold up. You've got 2 Phoenixes broken down already. You have very little cares in the world, it feels like, if you're the Wargs there.
Yeah, it just seemed like RAIIDUN could not survive on that AMC pick. I mean, the damage numbers were certainly there. I could see the honey was really starting to chunk, but the AMC 5 deaths or something like that, there's a reason this pick is not currently in the meta anymore. That, you know, just the damage numbers that AMC used to bring, he's not swinging the same way, and also it's very difficult to keep that pick alive. On the other side, Hawkk was having a field day. I mean, this Cernunnos was absolutely popping off. I think Spudio as well, both of the ADCs of the Wargs were doing massive damage numbers as well as staying very survivable. It seemed like the tanks of the Wargs were taking the most beatings early on, right? I think that Itori and Sarpeii were catching some strays, and that's why Personnel came so far ahead kills-wise, but the gold always in favor of the Wargs, the objective play always in favor of the Wargs, and I think just being able to keep your ADCs alive was the key here, and they did that quite well.
I mean, even in this example, right? I mean, this, admittedly 35 minutes in, but you're 10,000 gold down if you're Personnel. And admittedly, this fight doesn't necessarily go your way. It balances out, what, 3 for 4, I think is how that trade went in. But even before that, it was like 9 to 4 in kills. And 5,000 gold separating, 4,000 gold. And it felt like no matter what the Personnel did, they just weren't farming as strong as maybe they could have. And unfortunately, despite the fact that going into that last fight, they had the better looking slash lines, at the end of the game, they come up a little short. little slightly worse for wear in the slash line department as well, while the Wargs continued to grind their farm and control a lot. You give a shout out to Hawkk. I have to follow that one up easily. 41,000 damage. We'll round it up for him. Fantastic. Ate a fair amount of damage as well, but being able to dish out 40k, 41k, it has just been, I mean, commanding compared to the 27 that we got to see out of RAIIDUN.
Yeah, I think that the mid lane diff was, and again, I don't think it's RAIIDUN's fault. Maybe the team said pick AMC, maybe he was feeling the AMC, but this pick is so difficult, especially when you're up against triple tank, like triple dive, Sarpeii, constantly in the back line. Even Wingblade on the AMC was not enough. The movement speed, just trying to use the hives to juke around was not enough to try and survive. It was a lot of lockdown, a lot of CC. Your beads are like the most valuable item you can have on an AMC. When those are burned so quickly, you know, it's very difficult to actually stay in the team fight and do the things that Hawkk was able to do on the Cernunnos.
Yeah, definitely felt like reaching into a deep pocket, but 3, 4, 5 weeks a little too late, right, for it to maybe work out the way they wanted to. AMC from the top to the bottom, and unfortunately has not necessarily worked out for him. And unfortunately for Personel, that means this was the end of the road. Take a look at the bracket, see where these teams are expected to go, and you now have the top 2 from Group A. Now, they're not done just yet. Wargs and Hex Mambo actually are going to be playing, I believe, later today. Again, both of them will be, for the Wargs, first time today for Hex Mambo. As they advance to the elimination stage, they're going to be joined by 2 teams in Group B, one of which we already know, the Ravens. The other one, we're about to find out between the Gladiators and the Scorpions. So far, your teams that have been eliminated, the Ferryman, Thunderhead, Personel, and soon to be either the Gladiators or the Scorpions, get sent home. Believe the winner of that, if I'm trying to remember my bracket, believe the winner of match 10 here will end up playing Hex Mambo a little later today, and the winner we just saw, the Warg, will be playing, I believe, against the Ravens. So definitely some challenging matchups for these teams that are coming through the lower portion of these group stage brackets. And still only 2 spots, Trelly, that are up for grabs. Next match is an elimination match. Tomorrow, we're going to have 2 elimination matches as well as 2 promo matches to the SWC group stage. But between the Gladiators and the Scorpions, you know, your 5th seed versus your 3rd seed. We just saw the 6th seed who has been causing upsets, and I think being able to find a win over Personel like that helps cement themselves up in the top. With Ferryman gone, it's kind of up in the air. Like, the number 1 and 2 seed is still hanging around, but the bottom of the SCC has been in turmoil.
Yeah, at this point, I have completely removed standings from my head. Like, I don't care
That's
what
just team name.
I don't care what you came into this tournament at. You can win if you play on the day and if you actually bring everything you got. So I've completely thrown out the standings, and I'm just looking at field and what they bring on the day. So we'll have to see what comes next.
Well, we will see what comes next. I at least can give you this much. It's going to be the Scorpions up against the Gladiators. Loser goes home. Winner moves on to the elimination stage. We'll find out who it's going to be right after this.